Hi, everyone. Welcome to this evening NECF talk on COVID updates. I'm not sure where you are logging from, but I must say that irrespective of the different time zone, we want to welcome you this evening on the Malaysian time to join us in this event. Our talk, which is COVID updates, which vaccine, who and when is an appropriate title and appropriate situation that most of us are going through. All of us are probably excited as to when we will be in line for the vaccine, but we want to keep ourselves up to date of what's going on, and we have someone who's going to share with us, Dr. Ng Swee Ming. Later, I will introduce him to you all. Will be coming up to share this evening's event. So again, once again, welcome you, and I'd like to begin tonight's event with an opening prayer, asking for the Lord's presence to be upon each one of us, and also to give us the clarity and wisdom and understanding of how to navigate the situation that we are all going through. Let's pause for a word of prayer. Our Father, we give you thanks and praise for the opportunity that we have through Zoom and the technology that is available to us. We want to pray for all of us who has logged into this particular event, irrespective from where we come from and which time zone that we are in. But yet, Lord, in each one of us, there's anxiety, there's desire for us to be updated currently of what is going on. Father, we are aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has created quite a stir for most of us, but we thank you that, Lord, that as long as we stay and abide with you, Father, we would have your protection, your care, and your concern, and your love, most of all, upon every one of us. So we pray for our speaker this evening, Dr. Ng Swee Ming, as he brings to us much of his experience as well as the knowledge over this issue. We ask, Father, that you would speak through him. And Father, bring us, O God, that clarity of understanding, so that, Lord, that we will not be so anxious, but yet, Lord, that we will tread according to how you will guide us, according and in a way that, Lord, that you desire the best for each one of us. So I pray, Lord, that you would hold this meeting, all of us together in our respective places. Knit us together with your love, your grace, and your mercy. For we ask all this in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Amen. Now we will have a special event, a worship, a presentation by the members of FGT, Full Gospel Tabernacle. I will leave it to them now as they would give us this song that will begin to help us to acknowledge the goodness of the Lord Jesus Christ upon our lives.
I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest nights, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful, all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
All of us can testify the goodness of the Lord. And truly, as God's people, it is a wonderful experience to understand and to know the faithfulness of God. And this song speaks very much to all of us who have gone through the experience of knowing that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. Let me just evening take the opportunity to introduce our speaker, Dr. Ng Swee Ming. For us as Malaysians, he's not new. He has spoken, in fact, an earlier session about COVID-19 to a group of pastors, and it was also available to nationwide. But for a little bit more about his background, let me just introduce him as a pastor. In fact, he took his medical degree. He did his medical degree from the University of Malaysia and graduated in 1979. In the early stage of his medical life, he was running a family medical practice from the years 83 to 2007. Dr. Ng Swee Ming was called to be the pastor of Sungai Way Subang Methodist Church. In short, it is known as SSMC in 2010. Dr. Ng is also the husband to Reverend Dr. Ng Kok Moy, and they both are serving in the same church. They have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. And let me have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Ng Swee Ming to take over the session. Dr. Ng, please.
Thank you, Sam, for your kind introduction. Okay, welcome to each and every one of you, even for this talk. Thank NECF for the honor and privilege of being invited once again to give an update on the COVID-19. It's something that's on everybody's mind. There's no way to escape it, wherever part of the country you are in. Okay, so I don't know how many of you have heard my first talk that I gave for NECF as well as my own church. If you have, please bear with me. There'll be some repetition. At the same time, there'll be updates as well. I think that's important because things move pretty fast in this field. So let's get into the talk itself. Okay. Now, we all know the whole COVID-19 pandemic is caused by a virus, a very, very small virus. Okay. Full name is SARS-CoV-2. Okay, but just refer to COVID-19, that'd be easier. So this is just a diagrammatic representation of the virus. Okay, and on your right, just electron microscopy views of the actual virus. Okay, scanning virus, yellow dots are the actual virus particle itself. So nowadays we can see quite well and very easy once you put under electron microscope to know there's a coronavirus because of the crown, the halo around it. I think that's very important. Now, how does the COVID-19 virus attack the human body? Okay, so just this is a diagrammatic representation of how it does that. This is the virus. Okay, if you open it up, it's an RNA virus, and around it the red points are all what I call the spike protein. The spike protein is the key, okay, of how the virus enters a living cell. Okay, so if the spike protein reach on to a receptor on your body, a lot of time found in your nose, in your lungs, and all that. ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme receptor 2. Okay, the spike protein, the red part, reaches to that, and once it locks into that, it will enter the cell. And once it enters the cell, you open up and release the viral RNA itself. And when the viral RNA is released into the cytoplasm of the cell, the whole natural God's creation in that sense, okay, ribosomes will take over. Once the viral RNA is in the cell, ribosomes take over. These are called ribosomes as such, okay? These are called ribosomes, and they'll take over and start producing the protein within the cell, the protein of the different parts of the virus. And the protein will all start forming together. And we start forming together, you'll form new viruses inside the cell. And some of these cells, these viruses will be extruded, or sometimes the cell bursts and be released. So this, in a way, is how the COVID-19 virus gains entry into your cell. Okay, at the same time, it reproduces and be released. And this multiply not in 10s, 20s, or hundreds, okay, thousands and millions. They go very fast. They are so minute and they keep on going on. So this is the very simplified way of how it gets entry into your body. And what gets entry to your body, that's where the reproduction goes, and that's where it can overwhelm your body's defense mechanism. Okay. We now know that the main form of transmission for COVID-19 is by aerosol, airborne, or contact droplet. Okay. This diagram shows very well. Okay, if somebody has it, either cough or he speaks and all that, the droplet, you inhale it either through your nose, through your mouth, or even through your eyes. Okay, then the virus gains entry, and you need be that you multiply and take root in your whole body system. I mean, that's how the COVID-19 transmission takes about. The main presentation as such for COVID-19, okay, you can get fever, you can get mucus, dry cough, shortness of breath, very fever, tired, fatigue, sore throat, muscle pain. But the new one that always comes on is anosmia. Anosmia is the loss of sense of smell. Okay, and lately they talk about loss of sense of taste as well. So the main three, the most prominent symptom for COVID-19 cases is fever, dry cough, and loss of sense of smell. Okay, the respective percentages are there. You can look at it. Okay, so you always tell people you got fever, you got cough, please check up. Please check up, especially if your smell is going. Okay, I think that's very important for us to know whether you are having COVID or not. I think that is we have to check ourselves, and unless do the test, a lot of times we don't know. Okay, now the fatality rate, surprisingly for COVID-19, if we just did this figure, you kill about for every 50 people who are infected, COVID-19 only killed 1, while the earlier 2002 SARS coronavirus killed 5 out of 10. And the MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome virus, killed 17 out of every 50 people. Okay, so in a way, the MERS is much more deadly as a virus. It's all a coronavirus. Okay, so it's 34.4% fatality if you get the MERS infection. Okay, about 2,000 old people died from MERS worldwide. SARS itself slightly less, but still very high, 9.6 or about 10%. About 8,000 people died from SARS. That's 2002. And yet, for the COVID-19, our new SARS-CoV-2 virus, okay, the fatality rate only 2.2%, very low. And yet so many people, up to date, about 2.9 million people have died worldwide from COVID-19. Okay, this is something of concern. I need to explain to you why we think this is so. Okay, now this is just a diagram to show the COVID-19 timeline. Okay, once you're exposed to it, okay, now the virus multiplies. Okay, and then in somewhere here within this bar, you become infectious. You can spread the infection already. Okay, the thing will peak and then slowly go down as you recover. Okay, now the only point is when you become infectious and become symptomatic, there is a gap. There is a gap. This shown by this red square. There is a gap. Okay, which means that we know that COVID-19 is infectious even before you have symptoms, even before you got symptoms. And this is one of the major factors why COVID-19 is spreading like mad. Okay, because you don't even know you got the infection, you're already spreading it. And that's important. As opposed to SARS. SARS was very different. SARS, when you get fever, you got symptoms, and then you're infectious. So if you know got infection, you know to take precaution, you know take medical advice. But COVID-19 is very different. You're infectious before you show symptoms. And that's one of the problems we have. We have why COVID-19 is more dangerous than SARS in the sense, because you're infectious before you get symptoms. And the other big issue is there's a lot of asymptomatic COVID-19 infection. Means you have the infection, okay, and you don't know you got an infection because you got no fever, you got no cough, you don't feel unwell at all. Anywhere from up to 1/3 to about half, 50% infection are asymptomatic, which means that you don't know the infection, but actually you have it and you are carrying the virus and you are spreading the virus. So this is part of the issue with COVID-19, why it continues to spread and spread a lot and very fast. Now, these are the Malaysian figures published in a journal, okay, that even for these earlier days, 6,000 old patients only, okay, 50% of the patients had no symptoms, 50%, okay, 40% came down with about mild, moderate disease, and only about 6% had severe disease, And out of this, who had severe disease, 3.7 actually finally recover fully, okay, and only 1.3 in the way death. So actually for Malaysia, we are fortunate. Our death rate is not that high compared to other countries. I must say that in recognition of Malaysian Health Service, that our death rate is not that high as compared to other countries, okay? So far, this is the latest mortality rate that I can get. Out of the mortality rate, actually is only about 0.4% approximately. And these are the figures that we have. Yes, the clinical figures, we are going up. We are going up as well. Okay, as of yesterday, confirmed 352,000. Okay, and only about 1,300 deaths. Okay, you can see the second wave, the thing is coming down. Okay, and we are glad for that, and we are thankful. We are thankful for that. Now this chart, okay, a bit old. I couldn't get a viewer one. This November 22 chart, okay. The mortality at that time, the calculated of 0.6, it varied from 0.4 to 0.6, but so far it kept below 1, okay. So I think that's important. There is a sex predominant. Male are more likely to, in a way, get the infection, okay. And of the age group, the mortality in terms of age group, if you see down here, I belong to the 60 to 69 years age group. Mortality rate is 29.9%. That's pretty high. Okay, younger people, you are much less. Okay, older people, you are still higher. Okay, so this talks about your mortality rate. Now, these are underlying conditions. You got high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, kidney problems, lung disease, cancer, liver, other conditions. So if you have all these problems, there is what called comorbidity. Okay, like myself, I got a bit of high blood pressure, okay, and my age is 60 plus, so I'm the high risk group technically, okay. And we find that 87% of people who die have at least one of these comorbidities, we call that, okay. So for the older people with underlying conditions, COVID-19 is a great risk for you. It's a great risk for you. But that does not mean that you are younger without comorbidities, you're okay. But you still have a risk, maybe not as high as older people like us, okay? Now, this is the worldwide map to show, as of yesterday's figure, that in the whole world, 132 million cases, about 2.9 million deaths, okay, 2871, okay? So these are very, very staggering figures, okay? So my first point, in some ways, you want to say is that there are people who say that COVID-19 is a hoax. It's not infection. There's no such virus. There's no such pandemic. I think I've heard, you have seen the all the sending around the WhatsApp and all that. I think for me to tell you that so many people are affected and so many people has died is no hoax. There is a virus and it's causing havoc in the world. So it's a very real infection as such. Okay. Now, for those who get COVID-19 and you survive, we are thankful, okay? But now, more and more, we have what called long COVID disease. After you recover, these are the early figures from China. 76% after 6 months are still suffering one thing or the other. Fatigue, some people can't even walk, some feel pain, some get what I call brain fog, means you cannot think straight. Your lungs are affected, your heart is affected, all that. So it's not an infection that can just get it, fight it off, and you're well and back to normal. Okay. Now they think more and more that the COVID has done its damage in your body, and this is very dangerous. Okay. So even young people, we have cases of athletes who are very fit, they get COVID. After that, they can hardly walk up one flight of stairs. We hear all kinds of stories. So it's something for us to all to take note of. It's not a play thing. I think that's important for us to know. Okay. Now, just to give one case, this is the Texas Roadhouse founder. Okay. He came down with COVID. Okay. And after the COVID, he developed tinnitus, means the buzzing sound in the ear. And it was so bad that he went into depression and finally committed suicide because of the COVID complication. After he recovered an infection, but he had this complication of tinnitus. And it's so bad, he committed suicide. The reason why I show his picture is he's the same age as me. Okay, he's born in 55, the same age as me. And yet for a healthy man, he couldn't take the post-COVID complication and he committed suicide. I think there's something for us to take note of. So COVID infection is not something to take lightly, even for young people, okay? Now we talk about COVID vaccine as such, okay? COVID vaccine as such. We know that vaccination started with the whole area of Edward Jenner, okay, in 14th of May, 1796, okay, where he noticed that those who work among the cows, if the maid get cowpox, somehow they don't get smallpox. And smallpox at that time was very deadly. People died from smallpox. So he did experiment on a young boy, okay, James Phipps. Okay, he did some cowpox matter and scratch onto the skin. And then later on, okay, 1st of July, he purposely infected Phipps with smallpox. Okay. Now nowadays we cannot do this, like it's not ethical. But in those days they did it, and the boy did not get smallpox, which proved that cowpox inoculation, vaccination, okay, protected against smallpox. And this is the beginning of vaccination. And since then, we have got a lot of progress. A whole area of smallpox. Nowadays, as far as we are concerned, the world is free of smallpox, and we are thankful. It's a terrible disease. It kills a lot of people. Hundreds of thousands of people die from smallpox. But because of vaccine, we prevent it. The same for polio. If you are older than me, older generation, remember how polio affected a lot of people. But the polio vaccine, nowadays we hardly see polio. Okay, the bottom right picture is of the iron lung. People get polio, cannot breathe. They got to put in this iron lung machine to help them to breathe. Okay, and their whole life they will spend inside the machine. How terrible it is. And all this we could overcome because we had vaccine. Okay, now this picture is just a indication just for US. I couldn't get all the other figures. Okay, that the US doctors, medical and all that says that vaccination prevented 322 million illnesses, avoided 732,000 deaths just between 1994 and 2013, saved a lot of healthcare costs, 1.4 trillion. This is just for the US. Around the world, all of us benefit from vaccine. If you are like me, all of us have been vaccinated against BCG, against mumps, measles, rubella, hepatitis, and all that. All that helps us and protect us from the different infections that we have. Yet, there are people who don't believe in vaccination. They reject vaccine totally. Okay, I hope you are not one of them, because vaccine has done a lot of good throughout the world and saved a lot of people, not only from death, but also from suffering, from things that deform. Polio can make you unable to walk. It can make you your limbs and all that, all the deformities. We are glad that we have a lot of good vaccine against a lot of this condition, and we are thankful. So what is the vaccination status around the world at present? As of this morning as such, 689 million doses have been given in 153 countries at the rate of about 16.3 million doses a day. That's how fast it's going out. Malaysia said to say it's a bit slow, okay, but we hope to get there. So I think it's important for us to say that the vaccine is doing a lot of good around the world. And yet, a lot of people says the vaccine are untested because it's new, because it is in a way people say rushed. That's why it is not fully tested. Okay, my answer to them, it is untested, is yes, we can wait for the vaccine to be tested over 10 years. Wait for it to be fully tested and then start vaccinating. Just imagine how many people would have died in these 10 years while waiting for the vaccine. I think there's something for us to keep in mind. Okay. Now, the whole area of COVID vaccine development, I think a lot of people are very apprehensive because it's just done too fast. It's just done too fast. Okay. Now, I'll try to explain to you why the COVID vaccine was developed so fast. Okay. This chart shows you the different vaccines. Okay. MERS, we still got no vaccine after 6 years. SARS-CoV-1, we got no vaccine after 17 years. Ebola vaccine, after 15 years only they have come out with Ebola virus. Okay, polio virus took about 60 years to develop. 60 years to develop, a bit long. Okay, now the SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 vaccine took about 9 months to develop. Okay, when the genome came out in the first clinical trial, took about 9 months. How could it be done so fast? How can it be done so fast? Let me explain to you what is the traditional vaccine approval process and time frame. Okay, so when you do a vaccine, a lot of times it starts with preclinical. They test in animals first. They do animal studies, okay, and see whether animals any effect and all that or not. You test the vaccine and the need for it and all that. This normally takes 2 to 3 years to do animal studies. Okay, if the results are favorable, they ask for approval to do human tests. Means they do the testing, the vaccine on humans. Okay. Now we have a phase 1 trial to start with, clinical trial. There are 3 phases. Phase 1. What is phase 1? Phase 1 normally you try to get about 100 people. Okay, 100 people to see whether the vaccine you are developing is it safe or not. What's the dosage to use? I think that's important. Okay, and the phase 1 trial normally takes about 2 to 3 years to develop. 2 to 3 years to do a phase 1 on 100 people, observe them, follow them carefully. After phase 1 trial, you go back to your authorities to show your result. If the results are promising, okay, they'll give permission to do a phase 2 trial. Phase 2 clinical trial on humans. Phase 2 clinical trials, we test more people, okay, about 100 to about 1,000 people. Again, for safety, dosage, you roughly work it out. Is it effective? Does it produce? Does it protect against the disease for the vaccine? Okay. A lot of times they do double blind. What's double blind? They try to have half the group of people take the actual vaccine and the other half take a placebo. Means it's not a vaccine. Maybe it's just sugar water or some other injection. And they follow up these people and see which group get the infection. Which group it's called a double blind. And that's the most scientific way to test a vaccine. And normally this one takes 2 to 3 years to be able to develop up to this stage. After the phase 2, again, you go back to your authorities to present your result and get permission to do what called phase 3 clinical trial. Phase 3 clinical trial, you do more people, 1,000 to 10,000, okay? Again, the whole area of safety, effectiveness, any side effects, they try to do double blind if possible. And again, this will normally take 2 to 3 years to be able to complete the phase 3 trial. After phase 3, again, you present your result to the authorities, okay, and they look at the result and see, is it good or not, before they approve it, okay, approve it. And the main 3 approval body in the world, FDA, America, MHRA is UK, EMA is Europe, okay, nowadays read newspaper, you see all these figures. These are the big boys that look at the results and approval. Most of the time, if they approve, other countries tend to follow their approval, okay? And this approval process can take 1 to 2 years, something even 3 years, depending. Only after the approval can you do marketing. You want to do marketing, you still got to do a post-marketing survey to find out anything wrong with the vaccine or not, okay? And this can take anywhere from 1 to 2 years. So no wonder they said for normal vaccine production, it takes anywhere from 10 to 15 years to get a vaccine out, okay? Now, the rate limiting step for any vaccine production, the rate limiting, what determines how fast it goes? One is the finance. It costs a lot of money, okay, to make the vaccine. It costs a lot of money to do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. All these people, the volunteers, they are not paid, or sometimes they are paid, okay, or they are subject to all the different tests they need to do to be able to use the volunteers. So depending how many volunteers you have to do the studies, okay. You cannot get enough volunteers, you can't do the study completely, okay. And the last thing is the technology. You have the technology to produce the vaccine. So the three main rate limiting steps for vaccine production is finance, the cost, find the volunteers to test the vaccine, and the technology to be able to produce the vaccine. I think these are important, okay? Now in COVID-19 history, okay, why it only took 9 months? Let me try to explain to you, okay? December, there are the first few cases. By January 11, the year, last year, January 11, China was very good. They released the whole RNA, COVID RNA genome, means all the genetic structure for the RNA virus, the COVID-19 virus. They give it out for free, okay? A lot of times, a lot of people don't do that one, okay? But China was very magnanimous. They give it out for free. So January 11, they released it already, okay? And already in the US, because of technology, people already thinking of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials, okay? You read some of the writings. They released on January 11. The Moderna people says on January 12, we already had an idea how to do a vaccine against this genome. Okay, that's how good they are in understanding genetics. So when it got all together, by March and April, Pfizer, Moderna, Oxford, they started phase 1 trial already. Phase 1 trial is to see, they took about 50, 100 people to see whether it's safe or not and try to get the right dosage. And even before the phase 1 trial was completed, they were so confident the results were good, they started phase 2 trials with 500 to 3,000 people. See how effective it is. So even before the phase 2 trials were completed, they started phase 3 trials with 20 to 40,000 people. How effective, how safe, and to work out the dosage. And because of the pandemic, you're affecting so many people and spreading so fast, they started building factories because you make enough vaccine for 20,000, 40,000 people. You cannot do it in the lab. You need a factory line to be able to produce that amount of vaccine. So they started building factories to produce the vaccine, even for the trials. And it was ongoing, okay? And production expansion came on concurrently, even before the phase 2, phase 3 trials were completed. That's how confident they were. At the same time, they saw the need of urgency. So even by late November, 2nd of December, okay, Pfizer already reported, okay, and AstraZeneca reported, okay, on their initial results already, okay, what is happening and all that. And permission once was given in December, distribution started. And this took a total of 9 months. 9 months to get everything together, because everything fell into place. Everything fell into place. Okay. Now, this chart will help us to understand a bit better, because the technology was there. It's in a way fortunate that COVID-19 was a coronavirus. And because they have studied SARS and MERS, they are all coronavirus family. So when the COVID-19 came on, they knew a lot about coronavirus. They knew about the genetic sequence. They roughly knew which part of the genetic sequence will code for this and this and this. They worked it out before. So very quickly, the RNA genome, once it was known, they could work on the vaccine. The technology was so advanced that they could do it very quickly. Secondly was the finance. Because of the worldwide pandemic, governments, US government with their speed warp and all that, put billions of dollars, okay, to help the company develop the vaccine. A lot of them sign contracts to buy, pay beforehand, to say that if the vaccine is produced, we will buy how many million doses and all that at this price. So the company had no financial issue because the finance was there for them to work on it. At the same time, there were plenty and plenty of volunteers. Because so many people were getting sick from the sickness. It was so easy to find volunteers to do it. So it's what I call a perfect storm for vaccine development. When the technology is there, when the finance is there, when the volunteers is there, because the pandemic, everybody affected, everything came together. That's why it could be done so fast, so quickly. Now the reverse has happened to China. China controlled the COVID-19 so well that China tried to do a phase 3 trial of their vaccine. They got not enough cases in China to do it. They got go to other countries to do their phase 3 trials because they got not enough volunteers within China to be able to do the phase 3 trials for their vaccine. So I hope that will help us to understand how come this COVID vaccine was developed so quickly within 9 months. I think that's important. Now, understanding the COVID vaccine itself, how does it work? Okay, as I started just now with this diagram, how the COVID-19 virus can enter your cell through the ACE2 receptor that's found in your nose and your upper respiratory tract to the lungs and all that. There are many of these receptors there. So they hatch onto it, there's a key to it, it unlocks and enters the cell. So the key to the whole process, okay, is the red part, the spike protein, latching on to ACE2 receptor. This is the key and the lock. The key enters, the lock opens, and the virus can enter you. So a lot depends on what we call the spike protein. And nearly all the vaccine is based on this concept. This diagram just shows the 3 main types of vaccine being produced for COVID-19. The first one is a protein base, okay? Means they purify the spike protein, okay? They purify the spike protein and they inject the spike protein into your body and your body will create antibodies to the spike protein. The second way, what called viral vector, okay? They take the RNA of the spike protein, they convert it into a DNA, okay? The double band here shows a DNA. DNA is a bit more stable than RNA. DNA, they put the DNA inside a virus, adenovirus, okay? This adenovirus is a very special type of virus that cannot cause illness, cannot replicate, cannot reproduce. So they put the spike DNA inside the adenovirus, okay? And it enters into your body, injected into your body, and you order your body to produce spike protein. And this will cause antibody production, okay? And the latest, the third one is called messenger RNA. They take the messenger RNA for the spike protein, not the whole genome, just the portion of the virus genome that in the way cause the spike protein to be developed. So it's done that, okay? They take that, they cover it with a nanoparticle, okay, to be able to be injected to your body, enters your body, it produces spike protein, and that will cause antibody production. So you notice that all 3 of these uses the spike protein, okay, either directly or indirectly into your body to give you immunity, to protect you against the COVID virus, okay? Now, how does the vaccine work? How does the COVID vaccine work? Okay, I'll just go in a bit detail. I'll just concentrate on those vaccines that is being so-called used in Malaysia, okay? Used in Malaysia. Others, we won't, no time to talk about that. Now, the Pfizer one is the first one that's approved and is being used in Malaysia. The Pfizer one is a diagram of the COVID-19 virus. Okay, inside is the genome. Okay, and the red portion here, this is the part of the genetic structure in the RNA of the COVID-19 that codes for the spike protein. They are good enough to say where to where it codes for the spike protein. So they do this part, they take it out, okay, and they take only the spike protein genome and cover it with a lipid nanoparticle. Lipid nanoparticle protects it. If not, this messenger RNA will disintegrate very, very quickly. Okay, it won't last long and it's free state. So use a nanoparticle to be able to protect it. As this nanoparticle that you inject into your body with the spike protein genome inside. Once you inject your body, what happens is your cell, because it's fat and there's fat around the cell, you'll get absorbed in. Once the nanoparticle is absorbed into the cell, this messenger RNA will be released. Once it's released in the cytoplasm of the cell, the ribosome will go to work. Okay, you read the messenger RNA and start producing what we call spike protein. Okay, spike protein actually is a three-dimensional thing. There are three spike protein will combine to form one spike. Okay, so you keep on producing, and the spike protein sometimes migrate to poke out from our own cell. Okay, or some of it will get disintegrated and be released from the cell. So it makes our own cell be able to produce the spike protein, and because we produce the spike protein, okay, our antibody will react against the spike protein. So the spike protein will be released into the cell, and we have antigen presenting cells that notice the spike protein, take it up, and that starts the whole cascade of antibody production. Okay, helper T cells and all that will come to play, and the B cells, we have different type of immune cells that comes. So they start producing antibodies to the spike protein, either loose or attached to the cell surface. And once this is done, antibodies produced. Anytime the virus comes in, the antibody will neutralize it. If a virus comes in with the spike protein there, the antibody will attack the virus and will destroy it. I think that's important. Okay, so I think this is a whole process of this Pfizer COVID vaccine. Okay, Pfizer biotech vaccine is about 95%. Is 2 doses, 21 days apart. They need to take the injection. Okay, and this being used widely. 50% of the Malaysian government purchase is Pfizer biotech. So a lot of people will get this kind of vaccine. And this is the new messenger RNA, give very good protection as such. Now, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, okay, that's all in the news nowadays. Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, same thing, okay. This is the COVID-19 vaccine virus itself. There's a spike protein. They take the genome of the spike protein genome, just the genome, okay. And what they have done is, instead of RNA, okay, they convert this RNA into a DNA, double-stranded. Okay, double-stranded. Now, DNA is more stable than RNA. That's why it don't need so low temperature and all that. And they place this DNA for the spike genome inside a adenovirus. It's called a chimpanzee adenovirus. Okay, this is a full name for it. This has been genetically modified. It cannot replicate, means cannot give you the flu. Okay, adenovirus causes flu. Okay, cannot replicate, cannot give the flu. So they place the DNA for the spike genome inside adenovirus, the chimpanzee one. The reason why it's a chimpanzee is use the human DNA, human adenovirus. Some our body may react to it. Chimpanzee flu, like less likely that anybody gets it lah. Okay, more likely you get the normal human flu. So Oxford AstraZeneca, they use the chimpanzee adenovirus because they've been working with it for a while. Okay, the same thing, inject this into your body. When you inject your body, because the adenovirus, you'll be absorbed by the cell. When you absorb into your cell, what happens is the cell itself, you'll open up and release the DNA for spike protein only, not the whole viral DNA, only for spike protein. You'll be released released into your nucleus, okay? And from the DNA, you go back into messenger RNA, and this will come up from the nucleus, okay? And as we saw just now, once this messenger RNA is in the cytoplasm of the cell, the ribosome goes to work, will start making spike protein. And the spike protein will produce in big numbers, come out to the cell, and some get released by the cell, okay? And the whole immunity, the same pathway goes on. Once the spike protein is there, the antibody production, antigen presenting cell, helper T cell, B cell, all will take into action, okay, to be able to produce the antibodies. I think that's important, so that any virus now comes in, you got antibody to protect against it. So this is also the AstraZeneca, except they use a DNA. That's why I don't need so cold chain, but also use the same process. Okay, use the DNA to get messenger RNA to make the spike protein to be able to produce the antibody against this. The other one that we have ordered or bought haven't come yet, not that I know, okay, is the Russian one, Sputnik 5 or Gamaleya vaccine, okay. This also again uses the DNA, okay. Everybody works on the same spike protein genome. They extract it, but the Russians do a different way. The Russian use the DNA, okay, and depending on which dose, the first dose they use the adenovirus number 26. Second dose they use adenovirus 5. These are two different types of flu viruses, human flu viruses. So they put the DNA inside this, okay. So the first dose you'll get the blue one. The second dose you get the red one. Their understanding is that because your body will also react against the adenovirus, okay, you give two different ones, more likely the adenovirus will survive longer to release the DNA. That's the rationale for it, okay? So once you do that, once you inject either first injection, second injection, the same thing happens. The adenovirus gets into a cell, the DNA is released. DNA is released, it gives rise to messenger RNA for the spike protein. This is released into the cytoplasm. Once in the cytoplasm, it goes around the ribosome to start making spike protein. And the spike protein gets extruded, gets seen, okay, and the whole casket before, okay. Now the CanSino vaccine is also the same idea, okay. Uses adenovirus 5, but only a single dose, okay. Not as effective, I think, but good enough, more than 50%, okay. So these are the two, the messenger RNA and the viral vector vaccine as such, okay. Now the other big one that we also use now is the Sinovac, that's imported by our country as well. Sinovac from China, okay. Sinovac uses the more traditional method of making a vaccine, okay. What they do is they take the whole COVID-19 virus itself and they kill the genetic structure inside. They inactivate it with a chemical, beta-progolactone, okay. They kill the virus, inactivate it, so the genetic structure is destroyed, but the cell structure is kept intact, okay. The cell structure is kept intact. Then what do is they purify this and they inject the inactivated structure into your body. And your body will recognize it as foreign and they start the whole antibody production against the spike protein, different proteins that they have in the virus. They'll start production, okay. And this will go on. Once the production goes on, antibody will be produced against the spike protein, against other proteins in the virus, okay. And this will attack any virus that comes in, okay. Now this statement, I took it from Gavi. Gavi is the Vaccine Alliance by WHO. This inactivated vaccine only stimulates antibody-mediated response, B cell response. And this response may be weaker and less long-lived. Okay, so this is one of the so-called, you can say, disadvantage of the Sinovac. Although it uses a dead virus, okay, it don't seem to produce as high as antibody as the messenger RNA or the viral vector vaccines, okay, but it's still protective as such. And some people like this because it's the old tested method. About 50%, depending which paper you read, 50%, 60%, 70%. Different countries for Sinovac and give slightly different figures as such. Okay, I think that's important for us to know. Now, what are the side effects of COVID vaccine? I think many of you are interested in this. What are the side effects? Okay, obviously with any vaccine, there will be side effects. We cannot escape the whole area of pain, swelling, redness when inject, fever as a result of the vaccination, feeling tired, okay, especially after the second dose, headache, feeling cold, vomiting, diarrhea, muscle pain, joint pain. All these are common side effects of any vaccine, no matter which vaccine you take. Okay, so these are some of the figures that we have. Some of them publish it a bit more, some do not say so much. Okay, so generally the pain of injection, fever, feeling tired, headache, feeling cold, muscle pain, joint pain. These are a common effect. These figures are for Pfizer, BioNTech, they give the whole figure. Other vaccines about the same, okay, plus or minus 5 or whatever is around there. Okay, now I need to make a statement. Okay, I think that's very important. Okay, about side effects. Correlation is not causation. What do I mean? What do I mean? Say correlation is not causation. Now, the phrase correlation does not imply causation refers to the inability to legitimately deduce a cause and effect relationship between two events or variables solely on the basis of observed association or correlation. Means you give something and something happened. Doesn't mean that what you give is causing the effect. I think that's important. Okay. And the best example I think of is this. During this pandemic, a lot of people put on weight. A lot of people put on weight. Okay. Then does it mean that the pandemic causes weight gain? You may laugh at it. Okay. But that's why I talk about correlation does not imply causation. Pandemic itself don't cause weight gain. We know that. Okay. There are other factors because of pandemic. So I think it's important for us to keep this in mind as we talk about side effects of the COVID vaccine. Okay. Now, I'm glad in February, this was released by Amar Singh and all that for this. Now, just to let you all know that in the US death rate, a bit better statistics, okay, for those above 65 years old, for 2019, it's about 3,917 per 100,000 population. Okay, in the US, the statistics are a bit better. Okay, they print all the results. The commonest cause is heart disease, stroke, cancer, lung disease, okay, chronic obstructive airway disease. This is for US. Now in Malaysian, our population, for Malaysian population above 65 years old, okay, we have about 4,000 per year per 100,000, okay, of death. Means about 4,000 people, okay, every year die per 100,000, which equals to about 75%, Malaysian above 75 dying every week. 75 people, 75 persons dying every week. Okay. Now our statistics department says that 7.1% of our population is over 65. Works out to about 2.34 million population, our population over 65. Means just for Malaysia, we would expect about, for Malaysian above 65, 1,755 deaths every week for Malaysians on the average throughout the year, even without COVID vaccination. These are what I call the baseline data. This is what is expected looking for our figures, our numbers, our population, our age structure. We expect to have 1,800 people dying more than 65 years old every week. Okay, and this is important because once we start doing vaccination on these people, more than 65 older people, there's a phase 2. And we say, oh, this person died, that person died, this person died, that person died. We have about 5 dead. We know, oh, 5 people died after COVID vaccination. It may not be due to the COVID vaccination, but because of natural progression. Some of them are old, some of them are sick, some of them have comorbidity. They die of other causes rather than vaccination. So these are what I call baseline death per week. It's important for us to remember that and keep in mind. Okay. Now the side effects. Earlier, everybody was worried about Bell's palsy. okay, as a side effect of COVID vaccine. Nowadays, we don't hear so much about it. What exactly is Bell's palsy? Bell's palsy is idiopathic, means you don't know the cause, okay? It's a one-sided facial paralysis, unilateral lower nerve, okay, one side of the nerve is affected, okay? It's acute, it comes suddenly, and it causes your face muscle not to move, okay? Most cases, 80–90% will resolve over 6 weeks to 3 months. Most cases will recover by itself, okay? And it's more common in adults. You hardly see in children. People are diabetics, or in pregnant ladies. So these people are more prone to it. Now, our general population incidence of Bell's palsy is about 15 to 30 per 100,000 population. Means in 100,000 population, on the average, we see about 15 to 30 cases in our country. Okay, I think that's important. Or worldwide, it's still the same. So even as we talk about Pfizer and Moderna, okay, they did about 30,000 cases. They got vaccine, they got 4 cases. 36,000, they did about 4 cases. So what it says is that combined incidence of Bell palsy as a result of Pfizer Moderna vaccine is only 17.7 per 100,000, which is lower than what's the general population acceptance of Bell's palsy. So we always say that the COVID vaccine do not cause Bell palsy. Some people, after injecting the COVID vaccine, may get Bell's palsy, but that does not mean it's due to the vaccine, because on the whole, Bell palsy do occur randomly in people. We don't know why. It's so-called idiopathic. So it's important. Okay. Now, allergic reaction to the COVID vaccine. Now, allergy by itself is pretty common. Okay. Statistics, again, most of it in the States, 1 in 12 children has some sort of food allergy. Okay. And insect bites, bees, and all that, 40 facilities every year. I think that's important. Even from food allergy, people can die one. Okay, 150 to 200 fatalities from food allergy. A lot of times peanuts. Okay, peanuts very well known to cause allergy. So when I talk about allergic reaction to vaccine, okay, the one they're most worried about is anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis is the acute allergic reaction that can kill people if not treated promptly. It's treatable, but must be treated promptly. Okay. People ask the question, why were they not detected during the phase 1 to phase 3 trials? This allergic reaction. Why were they not detected? I mean, the simple answer is normally when you do a clinical trial, you tend to exclude people with allergies. You want to get healthy people to test the vaccine. So all those, a lot of times they exclude pregnant people, they exclude children, they exclude people with history of allergy and all that. Okay. So in the case, it's a selected population, so they don't pick it up as such. Now, our normal vaccine, not the COVID vaccine, normal vaccine also can cause severe allergic reaction. This is well known. And the rate is about 1 in 1 million injection of normal vaccine can cause allergic reaction, anaphylaxis. Okay. Now, the frequency for COVID vaccine is about 1 in 100,000, 10 times more than the normal other vaccine. Okay, so it is significant. I think it's important for us to know. Now, it's hard to find the actual figures for anaphylaxis and all that. Okay, I found this figure. Normal UK hospital admission rate due to anaphylaxis, okay, is 24 for 1 million children, less than 18. Okay. Rates are far lower for adults. Okay, so children tend to have a bit more. It's 24 for 1 million children. That's the hospital statistics for UK as such. So where are we now? Okay, so these are the anaphylaxis per million. Okay, the CDC says 4.5 per million. UK 18.8 for Pfizer, 12 per million for AstraZeneca. Okay, Norwegian for Pfizer, 9.6, Moderna, they have not noticed any anaphylaxis. So these are the figures which still falls within, we think, within our so-called acceptable range. Okay, so the risk of anaphylaxis is higher for those with a past history of allergy and occurs less often in those with no history of allergy. Means we always tell them, if you've got history of allergy, you tell the doctor. Your history of anaphylaxis before, you better tell the doctor so we know what to do, what precaution to take. Maybe for now, you don't get the vaccine. Okay, that's what we do. So people with allergic history, you need to know your allergy and need to inform the doctor. I think that's important. Okay. The other second part you need to remember is a lot of people with allergies have taken the vaccine with no reaction. So it's not 100% contraindication. Okay, but in the right hands, we try to prevent, because anaphylaxis in this day and age can be easily treated with epinephrine or adrenaline injection. I think that's important for us to know in the right setting. I think that's important. Just to keep in context, okay, anaphylaxis for peanuts, okay, happens about 30,000 per million people. Means 30,000 will get anaphylaxis or peanut allergy as such. Okay, this is 10,000 more common than what we are seeing with our vaccines. Okay, and 1 in 200 cases of peanut allergies, anaphylaxis, they die. Means 30,000 per million, they get allergic reaction. 1 in 200 cases can die because they are so bad and so quick. Okay, this happens. A lot of us still continue to eat peanuts. Those who are allergic to peanuts don't eat lah. Those are not. We continue to serve, have peanuts. Okay, this is one of the reasons why the airline has stopped serving peanuts. Actually, in the olden days, you used to have peanuts on the plane, but because of anaphylaxis and all that, they have stopped serving peanuts. Okay, because a lot of allergy complaints from it. I think that's very important. Okay, so I think it's important to know what anaphylaxis is and how to treat it. And yet, as the more we know about it, we know how to address the problem, even with the COVID vaccine. I think that's important. So a question is, the allergic reaction to the vaccine, due to what in the vaccine? Okay, I wish we know. At present, it's still unclear. Okay, like in the Pfizer Moderna vaccine, okay, can it be due to the lipid nanoparticles? We are not sure. Some people suspect it. Okay, in the other vaccine, it's due to stabilizer use. PEG is a well-known stabilizer, but also it causes allergy. Some vaccine use what called adjuvants to make it more immunogenic. Okay, it can due to those additives. At present, we don't know. We are still trying to find out which component of the vaccine causes the allergy. Okay, and how do we address this allergy problem? Okay, very simple. Firstly, people of severe allergy reaction, at present, I think Malaysian government asks you to avoid the vaccine. History of severe, the history of anaphylaxis before, you try to avoid the vaccine. Okay, if you have a history of allergy, mild allergy and all that, you will get vaccinated. Do it in a proper medical center. The proper medical center, you get reaction, they know what to do. I think that's important. And everyone, we say, if the allergic reaction happens, it tends to happen within 30 minutes of the injection. You don't wait a few hours. The allergic reaction is quite very fast. It happens. Okay, so all the injection, they ask you to wait 15 to 30 minutes. Make sure you're okay and well before letting you go. And this is for your own sake, for your own good. So better follow all that. I think all the people do it. I think that's important. Okay, it's good to know that especially the messenger RNA is so pure. There are no egg, no gelatin, no latex in it lah. Okay, some people are allergic to these components in the previous vaccines, but the messenger RNA vaccine do not contain any of these components. Okay. One big fear that we have right at the beginning of the vaccine is what we call ADE, antibody dependent enhancement. Okay, it's a big word. I'll try to explain what is it all about. Okay, what it means that we give the vaccine will give you partial protection, but not full protection. So that if you get the virus attacks you again, your immunity, instead of helping you, can make things worse. And this is well seen in dengue as well. We know that if you get one dengue infection, most people recover. But if you get a second dengue infection, because dengue got 4 main types, some people talk about 5th type, 4 main types. The second dengue infection you get, it tends to be worse. Because of this, we think it's due to ADE. It protects, but not enough. Instead, it makes your infection worse. Okay, so it has been seen in dengue, RSV infection, viral infection of the throat, measles, even in SARS and MERS, it has been seen in the lab. Okay, but so far in COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, okay, it has not been seen. Only seen experiments, but no observed incidences in human vaccine trial. We have not seen it so far, and we are thankful. We are thankful. Okay, so a lot of people get worried about this. What happens if it gets worse? We know in theory, but we have never seen it in practice, in the real world situation. So we continue to pray that we will not see it, and then it will help us to a certain extent. Now, the major side effect many of you are concerned about is blood clots and COVID vaccine. Okay, this is a hot topic nowadays. It's all over the news. Okay. Now, blood clots can take various forms. Okay. The most common form is what called deep vein thrombosis. Deep vein thrombosis. Okay. And the risk factor for deep vein thrombosis, the veins in the leg. Okay, this is a normal vein. Okay. With deep vein thrombosis, because of the valves and all that, the blood clots up. The blood clots up. And sometimes the clot blood, it gets detached and goes and cause problem in the lungs. Okay. Now, the risk factors for deep vein thrombosis, the older you are, okay, female are more prone, some races are more prone, okay. Asians, to some extent, tend to be spared. We are thankful, okay. Those on HRT, those who are lying down for a while, especially after surgery, you don't move your leg, you are more prone to it. Pregnancy, childbirth, brain injury, genetic risk factors we know about. If you're on the family planning pill, you are more risk. Okay, your cancer, you are more risk. Premature babies are higher risk and all that. So all these are the known risk factors for venous thrombosis, deep vein thrombosis, and pulmonary embolism. As a result of deep vein thrombosis, the clot goes to the lung. Okay, that's what happens. Okay, now the annual incidence of deep vein thrombosis anywhere from 1 in 10,000 to 7 to 1,000 adults. Okay, now it's not consistent, depending on which figure you read, it varies a lot. It varies a lot. Okay, just in comparison, came across it, I thought it's quite educating. Okay, if you're on a family planning pill, contraceptive pill, the thrombosis incident is 11 in every 10,000. 11 every 10,000. How much higher? Okay, if you're on the family planning pill. And yet people continue to prescribe family planning pill and continue to take it, even though there's a known risk. We watch out for it. Okay, it's a known risk. Okay, but people continue to take it because it helps to plan the family. Okay, now deep vein thrombosis, as I said, okay, it forms in the leg veins. The thrombus here, it gets broken out. Embolus means it goes all the way. Okay, inferior vena cava goes to the right side of the heart and goes to the pulmonary artery and clogs up and blocks your artery here. This is called pulmonary embolism. Okay, it blocks out the blood vessel and the blood don't go to the lung. Okay, and the part of the lung dies. Okay, part of the lung dies. So as far as we know, okay, from March 8, AstraZeneca vaccine studies in EU and UK, 17,000 recipients. There were 15 cases of deep vein thrombosis and 22 pulmonary embolism. Okay, this is much lower than we expected to occur naturally in the general population of this size. Okay, and it's similar across all the other vaccines that we use. So as far as the AstraZeneca is saying, and the authorities in EU and UK are saying, that for deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, the incidence seems to be within acceptable normal limits. Within to be that. Okay. The one that we are very worried of is now what called CVST, cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. Okay, this is the papers of last 1 month or so. Now, this is a diagram of your normal brain. The blue is your venous system. Artery carries blood to your head, and the veins drain the blood away back to your heart. Okay, so the venous system that drains blood away from your heart. The up here, okay, is what called a sinus This superior sagittal sinus, okay, this is the vein that's there taking blood back to your heart, okay. When I say about cerebral sinus, venous sinus thrombosis, CVST, is this vein somehow gets blocked, clogged up, a blood clot inside there. And once it's clogged up, the blood cannot flow back from your brain and causes a lot of problems. It presents as headache and can kill people, okay. Now, the annual incidence of this CVST, depending which paper read again, anywhere from 2 to 16 per million population per year. 2 to 16. Okay, it's a very wide range. Some people have new studies in Australia and all that. This is an annual incidence that they can figure out because it's not easy condition to diagnose. Some people have a bit of blockage and goes away, they don't know they have it. I think that's important. So as far as the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine is done, as of 31st March, I can't find a figure after that. Okay. In Germany, there were 31 cases out of 2.7 million recipients of AstraZeneca vaccine. Of these, 19 were confirmed and 9 died. In the UK, there are 30 cases out of 18.1 million recipients. Okay. 22 were confirmed and 7 died. France had 12 out of 1.9 million recipients. Norway had 5 out of 120,000. Netherlands has 5 out of 400,000. Denmark had 2 cases. I don't know how many cases, doses of AstraZeneca. The figures were not given. Okay. Now, the other very feature of this CVST that's very puzzling is all of them got what called low platelets. Normally, low platelets, your blood will not clot. Will not clot. Okay. Like dengue hemorrhagic fever, the platelet count go down, you bleed because you cannot clot, because not enough platelet. But here you got blood clot in your brain, and yet the platelet is low. So something is happening. Something is obviously happening. Okay. So the risk factor that we know now, okay, happen much more in females. Most of the cases were females, okay, and in younger people below 65. Some people say 55, some 65. So we know that this group of people seem to be more prone to develop CVST with low platelets. Okay, so this is a cause for concern. This is a matter for concern, and all the different medical agencies are taking note of this and doing all their research and experiment. And because of that, some countries have stopped using the AstraZeneca. Some only use for older people where the risk is very much lower, and younger people don't use it, which is fair medical science. Okay. Now, you have heard this yesterday. Okay, this gentleman, Dr. Marco Cavarelli, okay, he's the head of European Medical Agency involved in vaccine and all that. Okay, he made a statement that there's a clear link between AstraZeneca vaccine and this CVST, a rare blood clot in the brain. Okay, he made the statement. Okay, and because of that, okay, Oxford in UK, they have stopped their vaccination for children because of this. But they also make a statement that even though they do know that there is a linkage, why, how, they're not sure, they still think that the risk of COVID is higher than the risk of getting CVST. That's what they are saying. Okay, so the benefits outweigh the side effects, but it's good for us to know. Okay, so what does this mean? What does this mean? Does it mean very negative? Hey, all the vaccine will cause this? No. Okay, somehow AstraZeneca vaccine seems to have it. Pfizer less, but you're not sure because the figures are so low. Okay, I think for me personally, what does it mean? It just means to me that the system of check and balance is working. Means when there is a side effect that we cannot explain by our studies, okay, we stop, we pause, we consider, and try to find the reason why. Try to find the reason why, and try to identify the group of people that are highest risk from developing this complication. So we're not saying that well, we can do what we want, I think it's being prudent, it's being scientific, it's being medical science. That the system works. When we notice these side effects, we take this course of action. Okay. And I think with time, we'll know more and more. Actually, a statement we make sometime tonight in Europe. Okay. European Medical Agency making a statement tonight. I waited for it, but I've not seen it before this started. Okay, they're making a statement. I don't know what you say. But it just shows me that the system of check and balance for vaccine, we don't take it for granted, is working. When there's side effect that we cannot explain, we think, we pause and consider. When the numbers are there, we need to investigate why it happens. I think that's important. Okay, so the system is working. For that, I'm thankful. I'm thankful. Now, what are the theological ethical issues with the COVID vaccine? Okay, some of you may be concerned because the whole area of using of cell lines from aborted fetus. Yes, there are two cell lines, Hex 293 and Per C6. Okay, these are very old cell lines, 72, 85, that were taken from aborted fetus, and the cell line kept in a way immortal. You give the right nutrient, the cell continue to grow and grow and grow. And because they studied these cells so well over the years, they know exactly what the properties are, and easy to test, easy to use them for experiment. Okay, so these are very, very old cell lines used, and there are no fresh aborted fetal cell line being used. Okay, they are very old cell lines. And just to know that in the past, okay, a lot of our vaccine actually use these aborted cell lines. Okay, Mount measles, rubella, hepatitis A, and shingles and so on. And a lot of us take the vaccine without asking too many questions. And suddenly now COVID, everybody asks what ethical question, abortion, all that. Okay. I mean, we are not involved in abortion. We don't condone abortion. Okay. But this is done. What's happened in the past? No new fetus is lost. The cell line is kept intact for experimental purposes, to help other people, to help develop better vaccine. I think that's important. Okay. So for those who are very keen, okay, of the 5 vaccines that Malaysia is in the way importing, okay, for Sinovac, AstraZeneca, CanSino, Pfizer, BioNTech, Sputnik 5, okay. Cell vaccine, the aborted fetal cell used in vaccine production. Sinovac, no. Sinovac is a monkey cell, okay. 293 used, Sputnik is 293, okay. For Pfizer, BioNTech, is all genetic, but use the 293 to test in the lab, not in the vaccine, but to test the efficacy in the lab. Okay, that's different. So in a way, all of us in some way are related, except that the Pfizer one does not use it in the cell, in the vaccine production. If there's any comfort to any of you, okay, just to also I say that. And again, I'm glad the Catholic Church in Malaysia, as well as Singapore, as well as our CCM and all that, have put out a statement, okay, about vaccination, all that, encouraging people to take the vaccine. So in many sense, this ethical, theological issue is a very personal conviction and decision that you need to make for yourself. And my nearest example that I can think of is, yes, a lot of us don't like slavery. A lot of us say slavery is wrong, okay? And yet must remember that Paul, the road that Paul went on, and something even the road that we go on, was paved by the slaves, using slavery to pave the road. And yet Paul used it for the Lord's ministry. A lot of railway lines in US use a lot of slavery or cheap labor or slave labor. And yet nobody complains, I shouldn't go on this line because slaves are involved in this. So I think we need to rethink our objection to all this. I think that's important for all of us to understand. So even as we talk about COVID virus mutation, what is it all about? Okay, now we know, yes, viruses by itself, by nature, will mutate, will change. Okay, that's why the flu virus, the vaccine changes every year, I think every 6 months, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, because the virus keep on mutating. And that's part of the virus feature, they keep on mutating. And COVID-19 virus is no different, okay? The first one they have is the the UK one, called B117 UK variant, okay, the genetic variant, okay, cause it to bind better to the spike protein, okay. It's more infectious because it binds better, 70% more infectious, and causes more severe infection, and that's spread around the world now, okay, even in Malaysia, okay. So this will come, okay. These are three main ones that we know about: the Can one, the UK variant, the South Africa variant, okay, and the Brazilian variant. They're spreading around the world at present. And the longer we wait, the more mutation will come. And the latest one, they don't have a name for it yet. Okay, it's this one called double mutant variant in India. Has already spread to California. Double mutant, okay. I think take some of the South Africa one and combine another mutation of the California one and all that. So all this will continue to go, okay. This will happen whether we like it or not. And because there's mutation happening, our vaccine may not be as effective as we would like it to be, okay. This is a table that I found out, okay, that Pfizer Biotech is good for UK variant, okay, reduced for the South African variant, okay. In the case of the Brazilian variant, same, okay, but other vaccines, AstraZeneca, the South African is reduced, okay. Sinovac reduced. So we know that the longer we wait, the more variants will come out. And the more variants come out, what vaccine we have may not work as well. Always playing catch up. Okay. So I think it's important. What is our lesson from all these variants? My lesson to all of us is, because of mutation, we need to get ourselves vaccinated as soon, as fast as possible. You are vaccinated, you are protected, you protect yourself, you help to protect others. And more people are protected, then the virus got no host to multiply in. No host to multiply in, you either die or less likely to mutate. The more virus spreading around, the more mutation occurs. I think that's important. Okay. And the word for all those young people, especially, this I found in one of the articles, okay, Canada third wave of COVID-19 is killing faster and younger people with the new variants, which means that last time we talked about older people dying. Now the wards are filled with younger and younger people, 40 years old, 30 years old, are getting infected more and more, and many of them are dying. Okay, so it's not something to play about. That as the virus progresses, mutation happens. Mutation happens is harder to control, okay, and harder to treat, and more people will die. So I think it's important for us to understand what are the treatment options for us as such, besides the vaccine. Okay, now the drug called ivermectin, okay, there's a lot of to and fro about this, okay. So ivermectin is actually a worm medication, in simple terms, like worm medication, long time and all that, but it has the antiviral effect. And we are still trying to do a full-blown good control study on ivermectin, okay. Although there are some studies, more studies coming on that shows good result with ivermectin for mild to moderate COVID-19 cases. Okay, it can do help in mild to moderate cases, and it may even be helpful for prophylaxis. Prophylaxis means, let's say a family, one person is positive, the rest may be exposed to it. Even before you get the symptoms, before you test positive, you can take the drug to prevent if you have the virus from multiplying. Prophylaxis, prevention. Okay, that's prophylaxis. So ivermectin may have a role to play in this. Okay, and I know some people do have it and do use it. Okay, although the big studies are not out yet, there's a lot of small studies. Okay, say it's helpful. The other drug that's very common at one time was hydroxychloroquine. Okay, so far all the studies says it does not help. If anything, it can make it worse. Okay, so hydroxychloroquine at one time was promoted by some of the people. Okay, it's out of fashion already lah. Okay, so there's no place in COVID-19 treatment. Okay, what about vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc? Okay, so far you want to take vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. You can take. Don't overdose. Vitamin C cannot overdose lah. Vitamin D you can. Okay, so far it's non-conclusive. Non-conclusive. A lot of what called any doctor testimonies. Means I got COVID, I took this, I recovered. But you don't know whether if you didn't take vitamin C, didn't take vitamin D, will you recover so fast or not? You don't know. These are called anecdotal accounts. Okay, it's best to do a control study. One group take, one group don't take, and see how fast they recover or how bad is the infection. But so far, we don't see the kind of papers yet. Okay, so I think something to keep in mind. Now, what are the facts and figures about COVID vaccination as such? What are the facts and figures? The best figure we have is from Israel. They are the most advanced in terms of vaccinating the whole population. Okay, and their figures since they started in December. Okay, the peak has been coming down very well. Death rates have been coming down very well as they cover more and more people. Okay, as of 11th of March, okay, 55.7% at least took one dose. 45.1% have taken both the doses. I think this is very remarkable figure. And if you have read, they're opening up, for their Easter and all that. They can open up places for people to visit and all that. Okay, so Israel is a good example where you vaccinate a lot of people. The cases keep dropping, and outlook is very much better. Now, what's the greatest danger to COVID vaccination? What's the greatest danger? To me, the greatest danger is what's called infodemic. Infodemic, okay, information that may not be helpful. Okay, infodemic is an overabundance of information, both online and offline. Okay, and COVID-19 is the first pandemic where the technology of social media is so prevalent. A lot of people got smartphones and all that, WhatsApp lah, Telegram lah, okay, Signal and all that. You spread news very, very fast, good and bad news. I think that's important. So by definition, it is defined as deliberate attempts to disseminate mis and disinformation. Okay, misinformation, disinformation. I think there's something for us to keep in mind. So I think we need to take note of it. If you can take all the negative news, you tend to believe them. Something for us to be careful about and be harmful to your health. You get so fearful, you get so afraid. Okay, that the vaccine do this, the this do this. So we get very afraid of things. Okay, I give 3 examples of how people can. I found this article. Okay, this guy posted a picture of this. This is the injected 5G tracker. He says, I got injection today. I rubbed my injection site, and this 5G antenna tracking device came out from the injection site. I don't know how many of you believe him. Okay, that's what he says. As if you believe in the conspiracy theory that because of the pandemic, the vaccine, government going to trace you, track you where you go. Okay, and then you got pictures of all these 5G trackers, adult male, adult female, child size, and all that. But this cannot, in a way, go into a syringe. There's no way for this to go into a syringe to inject into you. And yet there are people sharing this, people believing this. Another one, okay, where it says the relationship between corona, pandemic, and 666. How do we calculate it? Okay, very easy. Corona, C is 3rd letter, O is 15th letter, R is 18, O is 15, N is 14, A is 1, and you add up what you get? 66. And because corona got 6 letters, you get 666. And people believe this, that 666, that the end days are here, end times are here. Okay. Or another one, social distancing. Okay. Some people make this remark. Social distancing was Satan's idea. Health authorities use this term as a form of satanic worship. Every time they say social distancing, they are praising Satan. How do you come to this conclusion? Social distancing. You know how? They do this. Social distancing becomes Satan. And people believe this. People believe this. So I think we need to be very careful that we need to check our facts. Check our facts. Stop and think. Okay, check your source. Could it be a fake news? If you are unsure and not true, please don't share. Try to check with people who are better positioned to understand. Beware of emotional posts, life storyline, and all that. Okay. Okay. Think about bias. There are some people that you look, they are very biased against the vaccine, against the thing, or extreme religious people. Be very careful. Check your facts, verify your facts. I think that's the best that we can do. Okay. Now at the end of it, this is a good chart for me to show. Okay. No matter what a vaccine that we have, okay, no matter how effective they are, efficacy rate and all that, okay, against severe disease, nearly all of them are working. Against death is 100%. Okay. So far, somebody made a statement. So far, of all those who had COVID vaccination done, yes, some of them have infection, but none of them have died. And that says a lot for COVID vaccination. So the key message for all of us, even tonight, all the vaccines protects against dying from COVID-19. All the vaccines, no matter what type, okay? All the vaccines protect against severe COVID. Hopefully don't end up in hospital in the ICU bed. Some a bit better than others, okay? But generally, all of them help you prevent against severe disease. The efficacy can vary between the different vaccines, okay? But not dying from COVID-19 and not entering hospital will be a great help to the health service. We don't overwhelm the hospital like what's happening in Brazil now. I think that's important, okay? So instead of arguing over efficacy and which vaccine to better, just get vaccinated and make sure you complete both your doses, either 2-dose one. Okay, now we have a single dose one. I think that's important. So as we close, the Chinese word for crisis is Wei Ji. Okay, as I shared before, it consists of 2 words. One is there's a danger, there's a threat. But in every danger, there's a threat. There is what we call the opportunity. So in this COVID pandemic, yes, there's danger, there's a threat to us, to our life, to our families, but the opportunity also for Christ. This is an NECF function, just to share with you a Christian approach to a COVID pandemic and vaccine. I love what I call the Nehemiah's approach. Nehemiah not only prayed, but Nehemiah prayed and worked. He was very active in building the wall of Jerusalem. He had 3 prayer focus for us to remember that our life is in God's hand. Our life is finite. It's God who determines the length of our days. Okay? Some of us need to stop longing for the good old days. We can meet together in a big church for a big service and all that. Those days won't come back for a long time more. But let us enter into this new season, that I call it, that God has given to us through the pandemic. Church online actually now is a church without walls. You don't know who is logging in. Literally, God has taken the 4 walls of the church, and you are church without walls. I think this is a new season that we are in. So even for us, just to remind ourselves that yes, vaccines are very promising, and I'll promote vaccine, any vaccine offered to me, I will take. But just to remind ourselves that vaccine is not the promise. The promise for us as Christians is in Jesus Christ alone. Look to Him, trust Him, and allow Him to do it in your life. So I close with Philippians 1:9-11, ESV version I use. It is my prayer that your love may abound more and more with knowledge and discernment. So we need to keep in touch with what's advances in science, what's happening. We need knowledge, at the same time we need discernment. that we may approve what is excellent, be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, be filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ. And all that we do, all that we help our nation do, all that help our neighbors do, our community, let it be done for the glory and praise of God. I think that's important. Okay? And with this, I'll close here. Time is catching up. Sorry for slightly longer. Okay. Back to you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. That was a fantastic presentation. Your use of infographics was very, very good. I think it helped understand the topic of the virus and the vaccination very well. We all can say that this is very up to date. The fact that can you just imagine that after this session, you'll be going to be scanning for more updates again later tonight. But I think that was fantastic. But I think, and it also helped take a difficult topic and broke it down to, bite-sized pieces, very well organized. So I commend you on your presentation. We have a lot of questions, but what is to try and, and the good thing is that as many questions came in, you are because of your presentation. But, so what, one thing also, there was no questions on the virus and the transmission. So I think all credit to the Malaysian government that people already know all about that. So we are for vaccines. So, we only have 20 minutes for Q&A. So I'm just going to focus on things that are on people's minds on the vaccine itself. With the vaccine, I think to a few categories, and I'll first cover some general questions on the vaccine, followed by issues on allergies. And then after that, and then, whenever you have a doctor in the room, people will start saying, oh, this thing is aching and all that. And then, so they have very specific questions. I'm going to try ask you some of these specific questions and maybe have a question on side effects. But this, I think, was really the burning question that everyone was asking, It is said that, when you have taken the vaccine, right, and in your presentation, you said that, it creates antibodies and then it helps prevent the coronavirus from taking, or planting itself in your body and everything. But then we get reports that say that, actually vaccination doesn't actually prevent you from getting coronavirus. It prevents you from suffering the symptoms of coronavirus, or in a drastic manner. Can you address that question, please, Dr. Ng? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Sandy. Okay, I think it's just a matter of definition. Okay, once you have antibody, okay, the virus cannot take hold and you're prevented from having it. I think that's important, okay? And because you don't have the infection, because you protect against the infection, then you won't suffer from the infection itself, okay? The million-dollar question that we are all asking is, can it prevent spread of the virus? Means you are vaccinated, okay? You are protected yourself, but does it prevent you from spreading to other people? Okay. Now, so far from the Israeli studies, they seem to indicate that it also prevents the spread. Which will have a good effect. So enough people get immunized, vaccinated. Okay. Not only are you protected, but you prevent others from getting it from you. That seems to be the line that the numbers are coming out from. Okay, so I think, so as far as I'm concerned, you get vaccinated, you protect yourself. And because you protect yourself, there's one less host for the virus to infect and mutate. And enough people are protected, you get what called herd immunity. I've not gone to that tonight because no time. But my own understanding is Malaysia, at the rate we are going, we won't get herd immunity for a long time. Okay. Okay. For a long time. Okay. So. Okay. Thank you, Dr. And actually, you actually answered the next question in part of your answer just now, so that's good. But the next question I'd like to ask is that when you take the vaccine, right? It is understood that the effect or of the vaccine is like for some vaccines are only 6 months and maybe a year, and does that mean that you have to come back again to take another jab? And leading on from that question, the concern was that there's so many people lining up to take the vaccine, and as it were, you might not have even vaccinated everyone yet. The guys have come back into the line, the ones who have. So is that an issue, and can the government address it? Yeah.
Okay, now this is the issue that we at present is ongoing because of the simple thing that the vaccine just came out December, okay, and we are just four months down the road kind of thing. So how long will the vaccine immunity last is an open-ended question. I think Pfizer just made a statement, it's about 6 months to 9 months, conservatively, but we are not sure, okay? So what you say is theoretically possible, okay? Only 6 months, and 6 months will do a booster dose, okay? But my reply to all that is, okay, you don't take the vaccine because you say it only lasts 6 months. Then what is your alternative? Do you wait another 6 months for more people to die, get infected, get more mutated strains? They are more harder to treat. Okay, so if we don't take the vaccine, our options are very, very limited. Everybody don't like to be locked down. And yet you don't want lockdown, you don't want vaccine, you're asking for people to get infected. People get infected, people die. Okay, and now I'm trying to say that even younger people can die, not only the old folks.
Yeah.
So you can see from that perspective, whether you need a booster dose, 9 months, 1 year down the line, we don't know at present. Okay, because it's an ongoing study. Okay,
so I think that really for all the governments in the world, I think they really have their work cut out, because if people are coming back for booster dose while people still haven't taken their first dose, I think one focus of the government is really to have the infrastructure enabled to be able to roll out the vaccinations.
Yes.
Okay. Now I think we need to move on to the topic of allergies. Okay. Start off with an easy one. Those who have allergies to, like, say, fever, painkiller medicines like paracetamol, petidine, tramadol, codeine phosphate, or maybe even NSAIDs, non-steroidal inflammatory. Okay, so if people who have allergies to these types of medicines, are they some people who are in the risk areas of having to take the vaccine? Yeah.
Okay, I mean, anybody with a history of allergy, okay, I think is good for you to inform when you go for the vaccination. Okay, now the only one we are worried about is anaphylaxis that can kill people. But so far as I can read, anaphylactic reaction and all the COVID vaccines around the world, no one has died because we know how to treat. And it happens very fast, within 15 to 30 minutes. So in that case, in a proper medical setting, okay, those are not a problematic area that we can treat. Our Malaysian government is trying to be very conservative. Means those with severe allergy don't go for vaccination now. That may change. They may change their mind. Okay, but in some countries, I know, if you want, if somebody can write to me, there's a list of countries what they prescribe for allergies. Different countries, different rules. Okay, so as far as my advice would be, those with allergy, you talk through with your doctor, or better still, when you go for vaccination, they know your history. They know your history, they know what to do if you get, and the chance of getting it is very, very small. Okay, if you got anaphylaxis before, all the more you should tell them. Okay, so that even get anaphylaxis, they know how to treat you straight away and recover. So I think it's not an absolute contraindication, I would say. Okay. But it's a contraindication in the sense of we must do it properly in a proper medical setting. Well, I get worried in US, you see on the pictures, they do it in a pharmacy, they do it in the car park. Okay, in Malaysia, I don't think we'll do that. But I mean, I won't, allergy history, I won't do the car park. You collapse there, no? How to help you? So I think it's important for us to be knowledgeable and do in the proper setting, with the proper backup. I think that's important.
Yeah. I guess, can I say that an allergy is an allergy, whether you're allergic to a drug or allergy to a normal occurring thing like a peanut or seafood. But I guess the point is that anyone who's prone to allergies ought to
Be careful.
Be careful, and then say mention it to your medical practitioner to forewarn them that you are in that risk factor area.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
This leads on actually to the next question, because the one of this is now getting to more specific. Someone asked is that if I have psoriasis or eczema, okay, again, am I in the risk factor for taking the vaccine?
No. Psoriasis, eczema is a difficult skin condition. There's no contraindication.
Okay. All right, that's good. I think that's a relief for those who have those. The next is that there was mentioned, and people were asking a lot of questions about blood clots, but you handled those questions, and you brought up about the AstraZeneca vaccine and the blood clots. But just slightly related to that is the question about vaccines and those who are suffering from heart diseases or people who are in the risk category for heart diseases. Again, are they in the high risk area?
Okay, I mean the high risk area for those with heart disease and all that is because of the COVID infection, not from the vaccine. Okay, so if you are heart disease, underlying heart disease, diabetic and all that, okay, your risk of dying from COVID infection is very much higher. The vaccine doesn't do anything to the heart. Okay, so it's not contraindication of heart disease, hypertension, diabetic. I will advise you get it done because your risk from COVID infection is higher.
Yep. So I think that was also, you covered that in the cost and correlation area. So that's just because some people tend to panic. They say that, oh, I took the vaccine that aggravated my heart disease. But I think what you, just to emphasize the point is that that is not true. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So next, how about hepatitis B carriers? This was again asked specifically by a person probably suffering.
Hepatitis B carrier actually is very common in Malaysia. You'll be surprised. Okay, it's no contraindication. It's no contraindication. If you're hepatitis B carrier and your liver function is affected, okay, then all the more you should get the vaccine because you're higher risk. People with liver problems, higher risk of dying from COVID infection. So if you have hepatitis B, I hope you're on follow-up, 6-monthly follow-up to test your level and all that. Okay, but you should get vaccinated. It's no contraindication, but protect you from any complication.
Okay, good. And another specific situation, a person with Parkinson's disease. Again,
it's not a contraindication.
Okay.
If you read today's, I think today's paper that came out, they know that I think figures very high. US did a big study on all their statistics. Those who have recovered from COVID get a lot of depression, mental problems, and all that. Okay, so Parkinsonism is not contraindication for vaccination, but they should get themselves protected because they tend to happen in the older age group.
Okay. One question. This one, let's move away from the topic of drugs and maybe, but I think this is might be a question that relates to mothers to be, vaccine and fertility. What are your comments?
Okay. Initially, when the vaccine came out, there's this rumor, fake news, that the component of it, okay, can prevent ladies getting carrying a baby, getting pregnant, all that. There's no truth in it. Okay, the names of the cell type is very close, but they're not the same. Okay, so there's no contraindication. It won't affect fertility. Okay, obviously the other question is pregnant ladies, should they get vaccinated? Initially, in all the trials, they excluded pregnant ladies. Obviously, when they did a trial, they excluded. Okay, but a lot of people who got vaccinated subsequently became pregnant. Okay, they didn't know they're pregnant then. Pregnant. And so far, the outcome is the same. And best as I know, in the US, now they are doing a study on vaccination of pregnant ladies, specifically for that. And so far, I think the results are good. Means there's no contraindication even you are pregnant. Okay, so just to allay the fears of those who may be worried lah.
Okay, that's fantastic, Dr. Ng. I think on the time is getting by already. So I think on that note, once again, thank you very much for your presentation. And I'd like to pass the time now to Pastor Hong Seng.
Hi, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us. At the peak of the session, we had 700 people logged in through YouTube and Zoom. Thank you so much, Swee Ming, for your factual and informative talk. I want to leave all of us with 5 C's. Number 1, consider taking vaccination. Number 2, consult your doctor if you're still not clear. Number 3, check your facts. Remember, we have this fight against infodemic. Number 4, we are a church without walls. So let's embrace the new season and do what we can. Number 5, I think it's very important, Christ-centered life. Remember, life is finite. No point being vaccinated and living carelessly. Yeah? I think let's not forget we are one day going to meet our Creator. May our good Lord grant each one of us wisdom. On a lighter note, before we go, Swee Ming talk about this false idea, false notion that because of the pandemic, many people have gained weight. So I take encouragement in the fact that after the pandemic is over, I am going to lose weight. Thank you again, Swee Ming. Over to you, Sam Ang, the SG of NECF.
Hi, everyone. I guess you all have enjoyed a very good presentation. As been said, even looking at the comments from those in the chat group, they have actually expressed their many thanks to Dr. Ng Swee Ming for making the presentation in terms more for us as lay people to understand what it is and feel updated with what he has presented to us. So once again, on behalf of NECF and FGT, Dr. Ng Swee Ming, thank you very much for taking the time to share with us this evening. And we know that it would appear you are becoming such an expert in this area.
No.
So, okay, to everyone, I'd like to say thank you for joining us. And we hope that you just continue to keep in touch with us. And we will try to keep you updated if there's any particular kind of seminars that will come a long way that will be able to benefit and bless you. So thank you for participating, and good night, and God bless you all.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.